Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. In our JFrog Artifactory series, today is day 3 and we are going to talk about something very important. That is how to set up local, remote and virtual repositories for Maven in Artifactory. So let's get started. Before we start the setup, let's quickly understand a basic question. What are the common ways to store Maven artifacts in JFrog Artifactory? Because different organizations follow different methods. The first one is Maven type repository. This is the most common and recommended method for any Java or Maven based application. It follows the standard directory structure like group ID, artifact ID and version which we mentioned in the pom.xml file. It automatically manages metadata like maven metadata.xml, checksum, etc. This maven metadata.xml file is being created by Maven itself and it works perfectly with tools like Maven, Gradle, etc. It is the best choice for proper dependency resolution. So for most organizations, Maven local repos are the default. The next way to store the Maven artifacts in JFrog Artifactory is generic type repository. Well, some organizations prefer a simple method. Instead of storing individual jars, they upload everything as one package like a zip or tar. It is very flexible. It is useful when deployments expect one bundled file, but it does not support Maven metadata and tools like Maven or Gradle cannot resolve dependencies from it. So generic repos are good for deployment bundles. So there are other ways also to store the artifacts in Artifactory like repository replication and federation. This is used when companies have multiple Artifactory instances across regions. It supports event-based syncing and keeps artifacts consistent everywhere. It is very useful for large and distributed teams. There is one more way, which is build info repositories with JFrog build integration. This does not store your actual jars. Instead, it stores build metadata such as build dependencies, produced artifacts, environment details, and checksums. It's mainly used for traceability and CI/CD pipelines. So with all these methods in mind, we will focus only on commonly used ones in this series. Now let's start a demo with the Maven type repository. So let's start by creating Maven local, remote and virtual repositories for our Spring Boot microservice, that is SCH students. First we will create a Maven local repository in JFrog Artifactory. For that, go to JFrog Artifactory and log in. Here I am using JFrog trial version and you can also sign up and follow along. Just visit this JFrog trial version. Here you need to enter company email, first name and last name and start your trial. Once your instance is ready, log in with your credentials. After logging in, go to administration section. Under that you will see the repositories. So click on it and you will notice there are 4 types of repositories: virtual, local, remote and federated. In our previous session, we already discussed local, remote and virtual. Let me quickly mention federated repositories as well. So this is JFrog official page for federated repositories in Artifactory. So federated repositories in Artifactory provide multi-site mirroring of artifacts with a simple configuration. So they basically keep repositories in sync across different locations using bidirectional model. And they perform better in environments where artifacts are large or frequently updated. So in simple terms, we can say it keeps multiple Artifactory instances in sync automatically. Now let's start with creating the local repository. Select all projects and then click on create a repository on the top right corner. Choose local and then select Maven from packages type. Now we need to enter the repository key. In Maven, we store 2 types of artifacts: snapshots used for lower environments like SIT and releases artifacts to store stable versions used for higher environments like UAT and production. So we will create 2 local repositories here, one for snapshots and another one for releases. For the first one, I will give the repository key as application name, which is my SCH students -snapshots. And then I will keep the stage as default. And here in the general settings repository layout, we will leave it as Maven to default. This is simply the standard Maven folder structure Artifactory uses. Then include exclude patterns. These are optional filters to control which files are allowed or blocked. We will leave them as default. And here public descriptions, internal descriptions. These are optional fields. So here checksum policy set to verify against client checksums. This makes sure uploaded files are intact and are not corrupted. And then Maven snapshot version behavior, keep it unique. Artifactory will generate unique timestamp versions for snapshots. Max unique snapshots is equal to 0. 0 means no limit on how many snapshot versions Artifactory can store. Now select handle snapshots and unselect handle releases since this repo is meant for snapshot artifacts. Then click on create local repository. Now you can see the SEH student snapshots repository created. Now let's create the local repository for release artifacts. Again click on create a repository and select local and select Maven. And here repository key, this time give it as SEH students-releases. Everything else remains the same except choose handles releases instead of handle snapshot. And then create local repository. Just close this. Now you can see SEH students releases local repository being created. Now let's move on and create the remote repository. A remote repository simply points to an external or public Maven repository on the internet. In simple words, we can say Artifactory will download and cache artifacts from the internet for us. So click on create a repository and select remote repository from here. Then select Maven as the package type. Generally, for a remote Maven repository, we use it to fetch stable release artifacts from the public sources like Maven Central. So for the repository key, you can just give it as your application name. In my case, I will use the app name itself. Next, you will see the URL field. This is the default Maven Central URL, which is the main public repository for all Maven and Spring Boot dependencies. This username, password and access token, we can leave these empty because public Maven repositories can be accessed anonymously. Then there is the SSL TLS certificate option. This simply ensures secure communication when Artifactory connects over HTTPS. We will leave the remaining settings as they are. Make sure uncheck handle snapshots because this remote repository will be used only for downloading stable release artifacts from the internet, not snapshots. Now click on create repository. Just close this. You will see the new remote repository has been created successfully here. Now let's create a virtual repository. Well, a virtual repository is basically a collection of other repositories. It gives you one single URL to download and upload artifacts. But behind the scene, it aggregates multiple local and remote repos. For our setup, I am going to create two virtual repositories. One virtual repo for snapshots. This will combine our local snapshot repo plus the remote repo. Another virtual repo for releases. This will combine our local release repo and the remote repo. Let's create the first one. Click on create a repository again. Choose the virtual repository and then select Maven as the package types. For the repository key, I will name it SEH students, my application name, then virtual repository, then snapshots. Now under the repositories section, we will choose which repo to aggregate. So here you can see all the available repositories. So here I will select SH students snapshot, our local snapshot repository, and SH students, our remote Maven repo. These two repos together will serve all snapshot related dependencies and uploads through one single virtual URL. Leave the other settings as default and click Virtual Repository. Now let's create the second virtual repository which will aggregate releases. Again, go to create a repository, select virtual repository, select Maven as package types, repository key, give it as SEH students application name, virtual repository, then releases. Then under your available repositories, select SEH students releases, local release repo, SEH students our remote repo. Leave everything else as it is and click create virtual repository. So now we have created 5 repositories in total: local snapshot repo, local release repo, remote repo, virtual snapshot repo, virtual release repo. That completes the repository setup for our Spring Boot microservice. Now before we start uploading artifacts to our JFrog Maven local repository, we first need to create a user who will actually perform the uploads and downloads. So in the administration section, under user management, select users. Click new user. Here fill in the details like username, own SCH, email address, your email address. For roles, give permissions related to day-to-day artifacts operations, manage resources, manage policies, manage watches, manage reports, basically everything except the full administrator role. Under options, can update profile, that is okay. So set a password that meets all requirements. Retype the password. Add this user to readers group and click save. This user has been created. Now let's create a permission target. Go to permissions, new permission, give a name like SCH underscore artifacts, my application name underscore artifacts. Here add repositories. Select all the SCH students related repositories. Click OK. Under users, click on this plus icon. Select own SCH user and move it to the selected user. Click OK. And here select all the permissions, read, manage, everything. Click on create. Now the user own SCH has proper read-write access to all project repositories. So one more step, generate an access token. This is what we will put in the settings.xml so Maven can authenticate to Artifactory. For that, go to access tokens, generate token, give description to download and upload artifacts, token scope user, select the user which you have created, service all and generate. Copy this token. So I will delete this token right after the demo for security reason. Perfect. Now we are all set to make configuration changes in our pom.xml and settings.xml so we can upload artifacts to JFrog Artifactory. For that, we will need to grab the distribution management details. Go to platform, select artifacts. Here you can see all the repositories. For this demo, we will use local snapshot repository, which is SEH students snapshots. Click on the repo and you will see an option set me up. Click on set me up. If you select deploy, it will give you the distribution management section for Maven. This section is very important because Maven uses this information in the pom.xml to know where to upload the artifacts. Copy this distribution management. Open your Spring Boot project which is in my Visual Studio. Here paste the distribution management section from the Artifactory in this pom.xml. All the way to bottom, just before project, paste it and save it. And here make sure your project version is set as snapshot. This tells Maven that we are uploading a snapshot artifact. Next, we need to update settings.xml. So open your Maven settings.xml file. For me, it is in E drive tools, Apache Maven conf. Here settings.xml file is available. Add it with notepad. Here find out the server section and add a new server entry. Here this ID must match the ID in the distribution management section from your pom.xml, and you need to provide the username, the user which we have created earlier, which is own.sch, and the password. And first of all, copy the ID from pom.xml. And paste it here. Now add the username, user which we have created earlier, that is own.sch, and password. Paste the access token we generated for this user. And save it. Now go back to your project. Run the command mvn clean deploy under your sch students project. What happens here? It will cleans up the target directory, this one, and this deploy builds the project, generates artifacts in target, and uploads them to snapshot repository in Artifactory. Hit enter. Now build is success, and we can also see it has uploaded to our Artifactory. Now validate it in your Artifactory. Go back to snapshot repository in Artifactory. Here we can see the artifacts are being uploaded under the path com.sch students, then the version number. So this one com.sch is the group ID, this sch students is the artifact ID, and this is the snapshot version. So Maven also generates a file, maven metadata.xml. This file contains checksums for artifacts and helps Artifactory and Maven ensure file integrity. And that's it. Your Maven snapshot artifacts are now successfully uploaded to JFrog Artifactory. We can validate under Virtual Repositories snapshots. Here also those artifacts are being uploaded. Well, that's all for today's session. In the next video, we will learn how to set up a virtual repository to download artifacts from JFrog Artifactory instead of the public Maven central repository. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.